You're about to hear 5 more stories about the strangest things that happen on the night. Jevd. Every one of these is a work of fiction written for this channel, but the night shift never. Runs out of jobs nobody else wants, and it never runs out of things that happen once everyone else has gone home. Let's get into it. Story 1, Aisle 7. The stockroom camera caught the serial restocking itself, one box at a time, 40 minutes. After Yolanda had gone on break, she worked the overnight stocking crew at a 24-hour grocery store, the kind of job that meant having the entire building to herself between midnight and 5, aisles lit but empty, the automatic doors locked from the outside until a manager arrived at dawn. That night's job was aisle 7, cereal and breakfast bars, the same route she'd run 100 times, boxes off the pallet onto the shelf, face out, barcode down. Routine enough that she'd started leaving her cart at the end of the aisle during her break, instead of pushing it all the way to the back. She came back from break to find the cart exactly where she'd left it. She also found aisle 7 fully stocked, every box faced out, barcode down in the specific rotation pattern only she used, the older stock pulled forward the way she'd been taught, and nobody else on the crew bothered to do. She assumed a coworker had covered for her, texted the group chat to say thanks, and got back 3 separate replies, all confused, all confirming nobody else had been anywhere near aisle 7 that night. She pulled the stockroom camera footage herself the next morning, more curious than worried. Expecting an explanation, a manager doing a surprise restock, anything ordinary. The footage showed the aisle exactly as she'd left it, empty cart, half-stocked shelf for the first 31 minutes of her break. Then boxes began moving into place on their own, one every few seconds, steady, unhurried. With no hand, no cart, no person anywhere in frame the entire time it happened. She counted the boxes against her own inventory sheet afterward, expecting some to be missing or misplaced, and found every single one accounted for, correct count, correct facing, nothing short on the shelf, and nothing extra sitting in the back stock that should have been used to fill it. That was the detail that actually unsettled her more than the footage itself. Whatever had stocked that aisle hadn't just moved boxes. It had known, down to the unit, exactly how many belonged there. She watched it twice before she made herself stop, because the second time through she noticed something she'd missed at the very end of the clip, just as the last box settled into place. The camera's fixed angle caught a reflection in the aisle's overhead mirror, the round convex kind used to see around corners, and in it, for less than a second, stood a shape at the far end of the aisle that the camera's own direct view never once showed. Yolanda still works the overnight crew. She still stocks aisle 7. She's started leaving her cart wherever she happens to be standing when her break starts now, instead of at the end of the aisle, just to see if it still gets finished without her. Twice more it has. Story 2, the line stays open. The poison control line logged a completed call that night, 11 minutes long, from a number that has never once existed. Grant worked the overnight shift at a regional call center, split between a roadside assistance line and, on quieter nights, an overflow queue for the regional poison control hotline, routed through when their primary staff was maxed out. Most overnight calls were minor. A worried parent, a confused elderly caller, someone who'd mixed cleaning products and wanted to know if they should be concerned. The system logged every call automatically, start time, duration, the caller's number pulled straight from the line. Around 2 in the morning, a call came through the poison control queue, and Grant answered it. The way he answered every call, calm, practiced, ready to walk someone through whatever they'd swallowed or spilled or breathed in. The voice on the other end described a substance he didn't recognize, in a tone so flat and unhurried it took him a moment to register that the caller didn't sound worried at all, not even performing worry the way most callers did out of habit. He walked through the standard protocol anyway, asking for a callback number in case the line dropped, and the voice gave him one without hesitation, 10 digits, area code local to the region. He read it back to confirm. The voice confirmed it was correct. The call ended normally, logged and closed, 11 minutes on the system clock. Only when he went to enter it into the follow-up queue did he notice the number wouldn't format. Correctly flagged by the system as invalid, an area code that didn't exist paired with a prefix that had never been issued to any exchange in the country. He tried calling it back anyway on his personal phone out of simple curiosity more than protocol. It rang twice and connected to nothing at all, not a disconnected number message, not silence. Just an open line, faintly hissing, exactly the same particular quality of quiet he remembered from right before the original caller had first started speaking. He hung up, told himself that was the end of it, and pulled the recorded audio of the original call the next day to file the required incident report, standard procedure for any call flagged with an invalid callback number. The recording played back exactly as he remembered it for the first 10 minutes. In the 11th, underneath his own voice reading back the protocol steps, another voice was audible, layered so quietly beneath his own that he'd never noticed it live, repeating each his sentences back a half second behind him, word for word, like something learning the shape of his own script from the inside. Grant still works the overflow queue. He stopped reading callback numbers aloud to confirm them now, just types them in silently and moves on, and he's never once mentioned to his supervisor that, every few weeks since that night, the same flat, unhurried voice calls back, always describing a different substance, always giving a number that the system refuses to recognize as real. Story 3, lower level. The parking garage's lower level shows a car on the security monitor that the physical gate log says never entered the building. Priscilla worked the overnight booth at a downtown parking garage, mostly processing the handful of late arrivals and early risers who came and went outside normal business hours. The rest of the shift spent watching 4 grainy monitors cycle through the garage's 5 levels. The lower level, level B2, was closed for maintenance that entire month, gated off with a physical chain at the ramp entrance, its camera left running out of habit more than necessity. Since nothing down there should have been able to trigger it at all. Around 3 that morning, the B2 monitor showed headlights. A car parked at the far end of the level, engine presumably running given the faint exhaust. Visible in the cold air, positioned exactly where a normal customer might park if the level had actually been open. She checked the gate log immediately, certain someone had cut the chain, and found nothing. No vehicle had entered the garage at all in the last 2 hours, chained level or otherwise, and the chain itself, when she walked down to check it in person, sat undisturbed exactly where maintenance had left it. The car was still there when she returned to the booth, still idling, headlights still on, and stayed there for the better part of an hour before, without ever visibly starting to move. It was simply gone between one monitor refresh and the next, the level empty again, exhaust and oh. She reviewed the recorded footage afterward, expecting at minimum to catch the moment it left. The recording showed the car arriving in a single frame, already parked, already idling, no approach, no headlights sweeping in from the ramp the way every other car's arrival always looked. It left the same way. One frame present. The next gone, with no transition the system's frame rate should have been able to miss. She ran the plate through the visitor log system out of habit, half expecting nothing, and got a partial hit instead. The same plate number had been logged once before, 11 months earlier, on a night shift that wasn't hers, entered by a guard who no longer worked at the garage. She tracked down his old contact information through payroll and called him, apologizing for the strange question before she'd even finished asking it. He didn't sound surprised. He told her flatly that he'd stopped taking shifts that included B 2 months before he quit entirely, and that she should do the same if the garage would let her. She asked him before hanging up if he'd ever actually seen who was driving. He went quiet for a long moment, then told her no, never the driver, only ever the car itself. And that some nights near the end of his time there, the headlights had started facing the booth directly instead of the far wall, as if it had finally noticed him noticing it back. Priscilla still works the booth. B2 stays gated off for maintenance that, as far as she can tell, has no scheduled end date, and management has never explained why. When she asked once, they told her simply to keep an eye on the monitor and log anything unusual, without ever once asking to see what she'd already logged. Story 4: Closing Procedures. The office building's night janitor found every desk chair on the 9th floor turned to face the same direction. He works alone. Nobody moved them. Desmond cleaned 9 floors of a mid-sized office building on a rotating schedule, 1 or 2 floors a night, the rest left for the following shift, which meant most floors only saw him once or twice a week. The 9th floor was mostly open-plan desks, the kind of layout where chairs got pushed in at all angles by whoever left last, never uniform, never anything close to organized. He vacuumed around them without a second thought, same as always. That particular night, every chair on the floor, all 40 of them, sat turned to face the same direction, toward the far corner office, the one that had sat empty since the last tenant moved out 8 months earlier. He assumed the cleaning crew before him had done it, some kind of joke, and mentioned it the next day to the daytime staff, who told him nobody else had access to that floor overnight. The building's own keycard log confirmed it. His badge was the only one that had entered the 9th floor at all that week. He didn't think much more of it until the following month, back on his 9th floor rotation, and found the chairs turned again, same direction, same precision, on a night he could prove through his own badge log that he'd arrived exactly on schedule and found the floor already arranged before he'd so much as touched a single desk. He walked to the empty corner office that second time. Out of a curiosity, he immediately regretted and found nothing inside except dust and a single chair, facing the door, angled as if someone had been sitting in it recently enough that the dust around its legs hadn't yet settled evenly. He asked building management carefully what had happened to the company that used to occupy that corner office. They gave him a vague answer about a lease ending early, nothing more, and seemed unwilling to say much beyond that, the way people get when the true answer is one they'd rather not have to explain twice. He looked the company up himself that weekend, out of a curiosity he still can't fully account for, and found almost nothing, except one old local news mention of an employee who had been found in that office after hours, years back, in circumstances the short article declined to describe in any detail at all. He asked one of the daytime staff once whether anyone had ever tried leaving that corner office locked overnight instead of open. She told him the building had tried exactly that years before he started, and the chairs had turned toward it anyway, every one of them angled precisely at a door that particular week hadn't been able to be opened by anyone at all. Desmond still cleans the 9th floor. He started leaving the chairs exactly as he finds them now, no longer straightening or pushing them in, and he makes sure he's always finished with that floor and moving toward the elevator well before whatever hour it is that decides, every few weeks, to turn them all back toward that corner again. Story 5: Last Call. The overnight radio DJ's mixing board logged a live microphone input for 6 minutes after Renard had already left the building. He hosted the graveyard slot at a small local station, 2 to 6 in the morning mostly. Automated playlists with the occasional live break, the kind of shift where the building emptied out entirely once the evening staff went home, leaving him alone with the equipment until sunrise. 6 o'clock came, the automated morning program took over exactly on schedule, and Renard did what he did every morning, logged off the board, grabbed his jacket, and left through the back entrance, badge scan time-stamped, and confirmed on his way out. He got a call from the station manager 2 days later, not upset, just confused, asking why he'd stayed an extra 6 minutes after sign-off instead of heading straight out, since the equipment log showed a live mic input, his personal channel specifically, active from 6:01 to 6:07 that morning. He hadn't. His badge log proved it, time-stamped exit at 5:58, a full 3 minutes before the mic activity even started, and the station's own external door sensor confirmed nobody had entered the building again after that until the morning host arrived at 7. The manager pulled the actual audio from that 6-minute window out of simple procedure, expecting dead air or a stuck fader. It wasn't silent. Low, breathy, barely above the noise floor, something that might have been speech was audible. The entire 6 minutes, too quiet for the automated system to have flagged it as content, just present enough that the log knew a live voice had been on that channel. Nobody at the station could clean the audio up enough to make out actual words. Renard has never asked to hear it again since the one time the manager played it for him, and he's changed his sign-off routine since then, badging out the second the automated program picks up, refusing to linger in the building even the few extra seconds it used to take him to gather his things. The manager mentioned, almost in passing, that the station system logs showed the same 6-minute live input had happened twice before, both times on Renard's shift, both times filed away as a technical glitch by whoever reviewed the logs, and never once flagged for a full audio pull the way it finally was this time. Renard has since asked, quietly, to be moved off the graveyard slot entirely. Management is still reviewing the request. In the meantime, he keeps his jacket on his shoulders for the entire last hour of every shift. Now badge already in his hand, ready to leave the second the clock allows it. If you work anywhere alone after midnight, you already know the building doesn't always stay as empty as the schedule says it should. That's it for this one. If you liked it, you know what to do.